here. Meeting for later, right? Okay. Perfect.
Well, Rick is pretty cool to the bow.
Okay. I was really delighted when Dennis asked me to be the MC tonight, and it's now time to make some remarks on his behalf. And he's such a colorful guy, it's going to take more than one of us to share some comments and some stories with you. So tonight, I'm going to focus on the more serious side of his early years and career. And then in a few minutes, I'm going to ask Commodore Mike McGuire to provide a more humorous side with some special insight to Dennis's superior sailing skills in both a cruising and racing environment. Now, I first met Dennis, Brenda and I met Dennis and Mary in 2012 when they pulled up to Jefferson Beach Marina and docked next to us in a recently acquired Catalina 42. And we were docked next to each other for about 8 years. So when we first met them on the dock, it was obvious they're not from around these parts. The little flags on your dessert, there's a Rhode Island state flag. I'm not sure if that was mentioned before, if you noticed it, but you know, they speak a little different language in Rhode Island. And that was pretty obvious when we first introduced ourselves on that dock. So for the past 8 or 9 years, we've been next to one another, and generally every weekend during the summer, we're on the boat, sitting in the cockpit, we're adjacent to each other, talking across the dock. Invariably, Dennis would say something, be talking about something, and Brenda would whisper in my ear, "What'd he say?" And then Mary would say a few words about some subject, and I would whisper in Brenda's ear, "What did she say?" So, you know, we finally pretty much got accustomed to this language, but in September this past year, Brenda and I spent a month in New England, and at Dennis and Mary's suggestion, we spent a week in Rhode Island. And I can tell you, other than Newport and Providence, you can't hardly pronounce half of the towns in Rhode Island. I have some examples now to just indulge the audience and to pronounce these names. I mean, this is down in Rhode Island. Miss Comiquet? Is that right, Dennis? Okay.
Dennis can pronounce it.
Let me share another one with you. There's another town in Rhode Island. I have no idea.
I think it's a rash.
Tom, it's backwards.
Yeah. Well, here's another one.
Here's another one.
Here's another one.
A lot of cards.
I believe it.
Can Dennis say it?
I'll tell you. Dennis, you gotta help us out, buddy.
What do you say? I don't know.
If you want to have some fun driving around Rhode Island, turn your GPS on. Take you to one of these cities. Or talk to OnStar. Our grandson Spencer says, "Papa, you know, if you're in a town and you ever get lost, just talk to the car lady." I tell you, if you talk to the car lady in Rhode Island, you'll be more confused than So, at any rate, we had a lot of laughs that week we spent in Rhode Island driving around here. Quite a place. So Dennis, he was born in Pawtucket, Rhode Island on January 31st, 1955. There are some other famous people born in 1955, the likes of which include Steve Jobs, Kevin Costner, Bruce Willis, Billy Bob Thornton. Is that true, Randy?
And Kathy Reese. Kathy Reese.
Billy Idol, Tom Bergson, Reba McEntire, Whoopi Goldberg, and Gary Stintz, among some other famous people other than them. And Randy Summer.
And Kathy Reese.
Kathy Reese.
Kathy Reese.
1955, gasoline was 29 cents a gallon. And this one really wants to make me cry. You could buy a 1955 Chevy, fully equipped for $1,700. The minimum wage was 75 cents. The Disney theme park opened in Anaheim, California in 1955. The first Waffle House opened for business that year. And the Brooklyn Dodgers won the World Series.
Yeah.
Dennis's father-in-law played for the Dodgers. Interesting side. The Detroit Red Wings won the Stanley Cup. The president, Dwight D. Eisenhower, did the first televised news conference. Rosa Parks was arrested for refusing to relinquish her bus seat in Montgomery, Alabama. That had quite an impact on the country. Okay. When Dennis was a youngster, 8 or 9 years old, he did a lot of sailing on Narragansett Bay with his uncle on a wooden outboard 16-foot canoe boat. You may have seen a picture of it displayed on the screen a little earlier. And then they also had a 23-foot South Coast boat following that. So Dennis attended high school at the St. Raphael Academy, which was an all-boys school, and he served as treasurer of the student council. And it was during high school that he started to play hockey. And he plays hockey to this day 2-3 times a week here in Detroit. During high school, he also joined the Boy Scouts, and he attained the rank of Eagle Scout. And right after that, Dennis formed the first Explorer Club in Rhode Island. And within 8 months, he was invited to come to Detroit. He'd never been to Michigan before, because the Ford Motor Company sponsored a road rally, and they invited 50 Explorer Scouts from each state, a driver and a navigator, brought them to Dearborn. They put them up at the Dearborn Inn, and they provided 50 European-built Capris. And this road rally was billed to hell and back. And these guys and their navigators drove from Detroit up to Hell, Michigan and back, and that was the road rally. And little did Dennis know at the time that this would have some major impact on his career choice a little later on. So, following high school, Dennis went to Providence College, where he graduated with a bachelor's degree in health science administration. He then attended graduate school at Cornell University in Ithaca, New York, where he earned his master's degree in industrial relations. And it was at Cornell that Dennis saw an ad in the paper for a free room if he decided to join the fire department, which he did. And in 1977, he moved into this little apartment complex across from the fire station, in the fire station, and he's been serving in the fire department ever since in a number of different capacities, and he is currently serving as the district chief at Station 2 right here in Farmington Hills. So during his last year at Cornell, 2 companies visited the campus to interview students. One of them was Disney, Dennis didn't mention what they were interviewing for, but I have a feeling it had something to do with the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. And so, the other company that came to the campus was the Ford Motor Company. And when Dennis was in Detroit as part of the Historic Scout Rendezvous, he met quite a few of the Ford executives, and he felt comfortable with the Ford Motor Company and decided to take a job with Ford. So, at any rate, Dennis served a distinguished career, 31 years at Ford Motor Company. He supported multiple business areas, including manufacturing, marketing, sales, business development, engineering, distribution, and land development. And he also had multi-offshore assignments, and I'm talking 2 to 4 years in Mexico, Japan, and China. Dennis is fluent in Spanish, French, which he learned at an early age. He also speaks Japanese and Chinese, in addition to Rhode Islandese, which I So, after Dennis retired from Ford, he worked for a couple of other companies in executive capacities, and then he finally retired, and he and Lady Mary were sitting across the table one night, and Dennis was recalling about how much fun he had as a kid sailing a canoe in Narragansett Bay, and it was Mary's suggestion that they consider looking and buying a sailboat. So a couple weeks later, Dennis is driving around looking at sailboats, and he's driving up South River Road, and he spots a Pearson 30 in one of the yards up there with a for sale sign on it, $500. Dennis is saying, this is really a cool boat, 30 feet. I never expected I'd be able to buy a 30-foot boat. It's beautiful lines, really nice. So he hires a surveyor to take a look at this boat. And the surveyor gives him a price of $200, and then the boat survey, and they agreed to meet a week later on Wednesday at noon at the boat. Well, Dennis got tied up with some project at the fire department, and he couldn't make the survey, but the surveyor was there. Of course, I say at 12 o'clock, and at 12:15 he calls Dennis on the phone. And the surveyor says, Dennis, he says, I can't possibly charge you $200. I've done the survey, and I'm only going to charge you $50. And Dennis says, well, that's great. He says, well, what did you think of the boat? And the guy said, Dennis, you don't want to buy this boat. He said, the chain plates are fractured. He said, the keel bolts are bent. He said, the rigging's shot, the engine's full of water. And Dennis is thinking, this guy is going to buy this boat himself. He's selling it as a big profit. So Dennis is really suspect about this whole thing. So he had a friend in New England that worked for Hinckley. He got a second opinion. And about a week later, his friend calls him up and says, Dennis, you don't want to buy that. And Dennis says, well, what's it going to cost to fix it up? He says, it's going to cost at least $20,000, maybe $25,000. And Dennis is still not sure about it. So he's really liking the looks of this boat. So then he gets a hold of Gary Snyder. I think a lot of people know Gary Snyder. Gary Snyder comes over and takes a look at it, and he says, Dennis, you know, you're funny. $20,000 to $25,000 is going to cost you a picture. So, at any rate, Dennis decides that he's not going to buy this boat. So then he and Mary looked around a little more, and they found a Catalina 27, and eventually bought this Catalina 27, which they had for 5 years, I think. And they never named the boat, so it was a no-name boat. And after 5 years, they bought another boat. They bought a Freedom 29. Now, those of you that are familiar with Freedoms know that they don't have any standing rigging. It's a freestanding mast. So the name of this boat is No Strings Attached. So then they had that boat for several years, 5 I think, and then they eventually bought this Catalina 42. and named it Cloud 9. And they've had that boat for 9 years. And again, we've been dock mates for 9 years, and I'm still not able to speak Rhode Islandese. I speak a little bit of Chinese myself and some Japanese, but Rhode Islandese I'm still not very confident. Okay, at this point I'd like to turn the podium over to Commodore Mike McGuire, and Mike's going to share a few stories about Dennis's exceptional sailing skills.